Hello, and welcome to the Corhazi Outlook, a Grand Archive TCG podcast centered around tournament results and competitive metagame analysis.
We are here to provide a glimpse into what's being played at larger tournaments and help you prepare for your next big event. This is episode 16. I am Ken, also known as Chromatic. With me, as always, is Aubrey, also known as Jim the Eternal.
What's up?
And today, we do not have a tournament to talk about.
It's true.
That's awkward. What do you suppose we should talk about, Jim?
Well, let's talk about the concept that is almost entirely on my mind all of the time, and that would be limited. That would be drafting.
Yes. For most of you, I know that Constructed makes up probably 90% of your time playing Grand Archive. Mm-hmm. The other 10% being maybe coming up with limited constructed decks.
Crafting.
Or, your Path of Silver submissions or stuff like that. But why don't we talk about something that I feel like gets overshadowed a lot, which is limited formats.
Yeah. So I will preface this by saying I come from some Magic the Gathering history. Mm-hmm. So Magic the Gathering is a game where draft is a huge deal.
Yes.
If you're not familiar with Magic or you're not familiar with kind of drafting in Magic, there is a lot of support for draft in Magic the Gathering. There's a lot of people talking about draft in Magic the Gathering. Draft is present in the Pro Tours, their international level events, as a kind of competitive format. So Magic the Gathering, very serious about drafting. And that's the kind of energy that I want to bring to Grand Archive.
Yeah, Grand Archive in general has dabbled a little bit in limited formats. Dawn of Ashes, the very first set, was actually a draftable set. And we did have a little bit of sealed action going on when Fractured Crown came out. But overall, a lot of the sets that have come out since then are really not designed to be drafted, at least not until we got Mortal Ambition.
Right. And
that's the one we're going to be talking about because Mortal Ambition is the set that if you go to an Ascent, you will be able to draft. They pretty much said it's an Ascent exclusive thing. And honestly, it's just a lot of fun. And I think that if you are not doing draft, you should maybe sit around and listen to us yap about it for an hour and maybe we'll change your mind.
Yeah. Before we dive too deeply into that, what have you been up to?
Oh my gosh. Well, there's a lot that's been happening. But I think the first thing I want to talk about is Revelfest.
Yeah.
So the HVN season has come to a close, and we sort of ended things off with a Revelfest, as we usually do. Our partner in crime, MDuo13, father of Fractal of Insight, came up with the brilliant idea of a new format, which he dubbed the Reckless Revelry, in which we just basically said, what if we could play with all of the cards? All those cards that were banned for balance reasons? What if we unbanned them? But that's not reckless enough. What if we took all the cards that you can't normally play, such as, for example, the cards that are exclusive to your draft packs, should you go and do a draft? And that would have probably been a reasonable place to stop. But we also thought, what if we rewound some rules that were also adjusted for balance purposes, such as, waking up when you level up via, say, a dungeon guide. So with all of these switches basically flipped, we played a tournament, and it was hilarious.
Yeah, first off, I love the idea of playing in a tournament where all of the balance changes have been reverted.
Yeah.
So everything is at the highest possible power level it could possibly be.
For those of you who have come from the fighting game scene, this might be similar to something aka like Street Fighter Rainbow Edition.
There's definitely a Rainbow Edition.
Yeah. So this is kind of the Rainbow Edition of Grand Archive.
It also opens some doors to deck building possibilities that just never existed in real Grand Archive.
Yeah.
I mean, playing with the April Fool's champs.
Oh yeah,
was
that's a lot of fun.
Just a great idea.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody built anything with them, but I love the idea.
I know it was on the table. I was definitely thinking about it, but I was worried it would be too cringe. So we went with something much less cringe, such as Erupting Rhapsody.
Yeah,
the least cringe deck in the format, obviously. Hilariously, we talked about Toronto a while back ago. I was interestingly noting that I somehow managed to go through the entire weekend without playing against a Razor Gale deck. And all of that karma came back full circle where I fought the most painful pre-3 visits nerf Razor Gale deck. And boy.
Yeah, so God, that was the Nameless Champion deck, right?
Yeah.
Wow, yeah.
So no, that was not the Nameless Champion deck. That was the Kong Ming special.
Okay.
The classic Kong Ming special. Baby Grayzendal.
Yes. Yeah.
Pre-errata 3 visits was on display.
You gotta love it.
It's wild. It's wild. I have never clutched a Safeguard Amulet so hard in my life, only to see it get Zephyred away.
Poor boy.
Just
I was playing something a lot tamer.
true.
Not playing tamer.
Not tamer.
But I was I was just playing our namesake. I was playing the Corhazi Outlook.
Yeah.
I was
Did us
playing
proud.
Shadow Strike Tristan with Corhazi Outlook in it. And I also added one of the draft cards, the Naga's Fang, which is a weapon with 1 durability, 1 power, and the ability to turn prep counters into damage directly.
Yes.
So each prep counter you burn gives it an extra power.
Yes.
And it was fun. It was win more.
Yeah.
That card was win more. But definitely fun playing with the Corhazi.
It was the best performing deck of the day.
It won the event.
So
yeah.
hey, it worked pretty well. Entirely done for bragging rights for the record. No real prizes on display.
Right.
But just an overall way to just enjoy the game that we love in an even more bizarre format than has previously existed. So, if you ever want to spice something up,
Yep.
consider checking it out. Maybe we'll post a link in the show notes too if you want to check it out yourself.
And speaking of spicing things up,
Yes.
I feel like one of the best ways to get more out of Grand Archive than you are currently getting is to play more drafts.
I would agree with that. If you've opened packs and you've seen some cards that you wanted to make work because the design was interesting, but they're not quite up to stuff to play with the other constructor decks, a lot of them find a good home in draft. Mm-hmm. So
Draft as a format, overall slightly lower power level than Constructed. You don't tend to be able to take advantage as much of the really streamlined synergies that a lot of Constructed decks take advantage of. But it does mean that you can play some of those lower power level cards without them being anchors around your neck.
Absolutely.
Right? You can play these cards and have them be appropriate for the format as opposed to terrible.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting exploring some of those synergies that exist in AMB in this example that you never really get to explore in Constructed because it just doesn't turn into a powerful enough deck.
It's true. And I know, obviously, if you're listening to our podcast, a lot of you are interested in competitive play and just sort of leveling up your game. Draft often teaches different skills. How to select and value cards in a draft where you have to sort of build up your pool of cards from scratch is a different skill, but one that is very valuable to have in addition to knowing how to play the game. So
absolutely.
If you want to sort of approach the game from a different angle, maybe sharpen up some skills and sort of, use a different part of your brain than you normally do, draft is great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But how do we draft?
All right, well, let's take this back to the beginning.
Yeah.
So the way that draft works is, just as a general level, is instead of bringing a deck with you to an event, you're going to open up packs as a group, as a table, take cards out of those packs, pass the packs down, take new cards out of the next packs, pass them down, etc., until you end up with enough cards to build a deck yourself.
Yes.
So the way it works in Grand Archive specifically is you have a unique pack full of draft-specific cards that you open and just keep.
Yes.
And then after that, you're going to open 3 packs, in this case of AMB, but maybe that'll change in the future.
Yes.
And those will get passed around in a circle. Generally going to play, the ideal number of people is 8 people. So you take 1 card out of the pack, you pass the other 14 cards to the person to your right. Then you'll receive a pack from the person to your left, take 1 card out of that pack, pass the remaining 13 cards over to the person on your right. And it goes around in a circle until all of the packs have been emptied. So you have 15 cards in front of you, 1 from each pack as they went around.
Yes.
Then you do the same heading left the second time, and then right again the third time. So you end up with 45 cards plus your starter draft pack to build a minimum 30 card deck with a maximum 10 card material deck.
Yes.
So different numbers from normal constructed.
Yeah. It is worth noting that there are some restrictions when building your deck. You can play any cards that you have drafted, but you are subject to a limit of 4 copies of a given card in your main deck and 1 copy of a given card in your material deck. Typically, you do this you play 3 rounds of draft with your draft deck against various opponents. It's usually a best of 1. We personally at home have experimented with a best of 3. It usually goes fast enough to feel like a normal locals, but you can kind of, season to taste if you're doing it personally and expect that you'll be doing a best of 1 should you do it at an official event.
Exactly.
So, yeah. Normally in other games, we don't really have this concept of a draft pack that you open before you actually start passing packs around. The reason for this is because the champion distribution in draft packs is, shall we say, middling at best, very random. So this is basically just a guarantee that you have access to all the spirits, including a prismatic spirit if you want to multi-element. More on that later. And access to what we call nameless champions, which basically give you access to 2 classes instead of 1, so that you have a bit more flexibility in being able to leverage all the class bonuses on the different cards that you'll see.
So yeah, let's go into the draft pack, actually.
Yeah.
So it includes what in my mind I've been thinking of as basics. Again, from my Magic the Gathering experience, when you draft in Magic the Gathering, you don't need to draft mana sources for your deck.
Yeah.
You're allowed a infinite amount of any basic lands of the different 5 colors, whatever your deck needs. You can just pull those.
Yes.
And so the equivalent of basics in Grand Archive is spirits, your elemental.
Yeah.
Your element. So the draft pack contains 1 spirit of each element.
Yep.
You can use whichever one you want. You could even use multiples of them if you want, as well as a prismatic spirit, which allows you to actually choose 2 elements at once for your deck.
Trade-off for this is you draw 1 less card when you start the game.
So it's draw 6 cards instead of 7, which is a significant trade-off.
It's relevant. It's very relevant.
In addition to the elements, you also get nameless champions, which Ken was referring to before. And the way a nameless champion works is it's going to be a combination of 2 classes.
Yes.
And you will get 2 of these champions with no overlap. So one of them might be Guardian Tamer, the other one might be Cleric Mage, for example. But you'll never get like Cleric Assassin and also a Cleric Mage.
Yes. Usually. The coalition's been pretty good about that. I think so. Seen anything. You'll also get a series of regalia to keep you busy. These regalia come in different forms. With different various effects. They're a little less powerful than the regalia you normally see. Some of them might seem familiar. They can range from various things to things that sort of emulate abilities on champions that you've seen previously.
Yeah, absolutely.
They could be weapons. They could be just one-shot items. Just little things to sort of nudge you in a direction when you see cards. So, for example, if you see something that maybe gives you access to an empower effect, then you might be inclined to pick up more spells that care about level. If you pick up some equipment with ally link, you might be interested in drafting powerful allies to stick those onto, stuff like that. So it kind of gives you sort of an initial direction in addition to the classes on your nameless champions to sort of look for cards and sort of figure out how to leverage them a little bit better than the other people in your draft pod.
Yeah, so this is where we move into drafting strategy.
Yeah.
Right? So what you want to be picking out of these packs is dependent on what you get, first off, but also a little bit dependent on the support that you've gotten already in your initial draft pack.
Yeah.
So you want to pay attention to the classes that you have access to with the nameless champions. And there's some other things that also can kind of lead you in directions with the drafts. There's some stuff that's just sort of generally fine or generally not fine. There's cards, for example, in the draft packs that allow you to put refinement counters on them whenever one of your allies dies.
Yes.
And then you draw whenever it hits up to 3 refinement counters. So
draw
after 3 ally deaths.
Yes, card draw is at a premium, by the way, in the regalia, in the material deck, right? So that's a relevant effect.
This card is good, first off, just to get that out of the way.
You might want to build around it if you
But also, it's just good all the time. You don't need to build around it in order to make it good. You just need to have enough allies that you'll probably trigger.
Which, generally in this format, you're going to want allies in general, because allies are going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Now, there are other cards that get a lot better if you are drafting around them. Or require drafting around them in order to make them useful at all. So Cowl of the Wild is a specific example. Cowl of the Wild requires that you have 2 non-human tamer allies on the field, and it gives you an extra level, just like Beastbond Ears, if you meet that criteria. So this is important because just using the nameless champions, you can't get to level 3. The nameless champions themselves start off at level 1 and have the ability to place a level counter on them built into the card, but there's no way to level them up past that. So in order to get to level 3, you need some other bonus. And Cowl of the Wild, something in your material deck that reliably gets you to level 3 if you can meet these criteria, is a good reason to go after some of the level-dependent effects. And as well, you kind of need to draft those non-human allies in order to support this card.
Some of those non-human allies might come with pride keywords stapled on them, and Call of the Wild is a great way to subvert those pride keywords. So that kind of pushes you in a direction right there, which is pretty nice.
There's some other stuff that comes in here. So you also want to think about what weapons you have access to. As a general rule, your deck is probably going to want to include weapons because weapons are a great way to keep control of the field.
Yes.
And this is something that normally you might include some kill spells. You might include something like Sparklight in your deck.
Yes.
But most decks in Constructed aren't going to prioritize having weapons in their material deck unless it's something they're focused around, unless they're like a Lorraine style deck or a Tony style deck, right?
Like sometimes you might throw it in there just for the heck of it, but like really you want things that synergize.
Right. In draft, it tends to be you tend to be focused on the field a lot more than you are in Constructed. So almost every deck is going to try and play to keep control of the field, to try to keep their allies alive.
Yes.
And having weapons is a great way to do that because it doesn't cost you cards from your hand in order to play something out to help you keep control.
Now, flip side to this is there are some regalia that have ally link that come in your draft pack. So things like Protector's Plate, which is an ally link regalia that gives a linked ally +1 health and intercept. That is good in tandem with a really good beefy ally to sort of be able to soak up a lot of damage that would otherwise be pointed at your face and really also keep that ally alive so that they can then threaten things.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that is another example of something that really needs you to pay attention to what you're drafting in order to support it.
Exactly.
The other specific example that I want to call out is Clandestine Chart. So Clandestine Chart is basically a copy of the Xander 1 ability on a regalia.
Yep.
So it costs you 2 reserve and gives you a prep counter and lets you glimpse 2.
Yes.
The reason this is important is there's not a lot of ways to get prep counters in AMB draft.
Yeah, there are a lot of good prep payoffs in this set, but it is actually surprisingly hard to generate preparation counters in the draft set.
Yeah. So a source of prep counters in your materials is a really good reason to try and prioritize a prep counter synergistic strategy.
Yeah. The payoffs for this can be pretty explosive.
So let's talk about draft strategies. Let's talk about what kinds of decks you're going to want to go for.
What are we looking for when we're trying to pick out cards for our decks, you know?
So the first thing I want to keep in mind here is, as a general rule, most decks are going to be mid-range. It is hard to draft a deck that is aggressive enough to keep par with something like Fire Lorraine, right? You're not going for turn 3, turn 4 kills here.
It's very rare that's going to happen.
But also, you don't generally have access to the tools that you need to really plus and keep control of the game. So you're not going to get like 12 influence, 13 influence, 14 influence water piles in this format. Because you just don't go that high. You kind of need to be playing things, and there's not a lot of ways to keep your opponent back while getting these kind of synergies for yourself.
Right.
So as a general rule, decks are going to be focused on playing the field. It's not quite as bad as something like a Wind Allies deck, but if your deck could be a Wind Allies deck, that is a great thing to aim for.
It's a good angle to go towards.
As such, there's a lot of rules that do carry over from Constructed. 3 reserve, 2 3s, excellent creatures.
Oh yeah, that's the golden stat line right there.
You'll actually even find a lot more allies in draft that are lower powered than that. So having something of that level is pretty good.
Yep. It's a pain in the butt to kill, and it'll stay on the board for a long time.
Exactly.
Another thing that is relevant in the set are horses. Y'all know about the equestrian mechanic. You probably didn't see a lot of it in actual Constructed. It's really good here. The allies that key off of equestrian are very, very strong, actually, when you get their payoffs.
Yeah, and horses, the great thing about trying to focus on horses here is this is something you can do no matter what your draft deck is supporting, right? So you can go for horses whether you're a tamer or not. You can go for horses whether or not you have access to prep counters.
It's just a good strategy.
Yeah, so it's always available, and it's something to pay attention to as the cards are going around to see if these cards are coming to you, if you're getting enough to support them.
A basic example of this is something like Stolen Vanguard. This is a 2-cost 1/2. But on enter, if you have a horse, it gets +2 attack until the end of the turn. So it's a 2-cost 3/2 for 1 turn, which is a great way to knock out, say, a 2/3 that's in your way. So horse is good.
Yeah, there's
Draft
actually
horses.
a lot of effects in the format that give you kind of temporary 3/2. There's 1/2s that have some sort of way to buff themselves up, usually only once or usually on enter. And this is actually really, really powerful because it lets them trade off with units that are much better than them.
Oh, yeah.
So being able to get that initial hit and knock out an enemy that's causing you trouble is pretty valuable. It's not something to be to be overlooked.
Yep. Another card that is here in this set is the one that you are all familiar with.
Yeah.
Razorgo Calling.
So the great thing about Razorgo Calling is this is also somewhat agnostic to whatever you have in your draft pool.
It's just bonus.
It's just, yeah, you can play it for 4 And that's okay. Like, that's still powerful enough. If you're cleric or mage, then, Yahtzee.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be cleric or mage to get value out of Razorgale. It's just a matter of building your deck in the right way.
Yep, you could have a whole bunch of Wind Allies and 1 or 2 Razorgales, and that's honestly enough.
If you try going all the way into Razorgale, I've found that it can be powerful, but it also tends to fold to an aggressive strategy from your opponent.
Yeah,
So you've got to be really careful about making sure that if you're going deep into Razorgale, you have ways to keep yourself alive.
Yeah, the important thing to note is that a lot of the tricks that have done well for Razorgale Constructed are actually not present in AMB. Things like Veiling Breeze is not present in AMB. So you need to sort of find other ways to keep yourself alive. Otherwise, a good allies deck can just run you over, basically, before you have a time to really get online and get all those triggers. So something like a Swift Recruit, which normally is very innocuous, is suddenly much, much more impactful, just as a way to keep stuff off of your back.
Absolutely. And then past Razorgale, there's also kind of a theme in AMB that was mostly overlooked for Constructed, which is Empower.
Empower is pretty good. So it starts with something as innocuous as a Mnemonic Charm, which is just a, item that draws a card into memory and you can sack it to Empower 2. A classic card. We've seen it used in Constructed pretty well. But there's a lot of things in the set that do key off of level that are pretty powerful, that if you can, empower for a turn, you can get a lot of value out of. One obvious one is Fireball.
Yep.
Fireball's in this set. So obviously, big level equals big boom. Very good. Cone of Frost, also very, very good. You get those extra hits of damage the higher your level is. And Vengeful Gust is actually a card in Wind, which doesn't really get a lot of talk, but it's a way to suppress an ally you don't control. And if you are level 3+, when that ally comes back onto the field, it deals 4 damage to your opponent's champion. And this is it's not really easy to get to level 3 outside of something like Howl of the Wild. And your other option is basically just to Empower. So with a couple Empower enablers and a payoff for 2 like this, you can get some good damage in.
Yep. Don't make the mistake of thinking that Empower is only for damage.
Yes.
Right? Outside of Fireball specifically,
yes,
there is, one other effect? There's Leeching Bolt.
Oh, there is Leeching Bolts.
There's not very many effects that take your level directly into damage, and you're not trying to use Empower to build yourself up to level 7 or level 9 and deal a huge fireball, right?
Level
this
2
is
and 3
enabling,
is enough.
Yeah. This is enabling a bunch of incidental value.
Yeah.
Because you can get to that level 3 threshold a lot easier using these Empower abilities.
Now, if incidentally you manage to fireball someone for 7 while stocking a bunch of Mnemonic Charms, great. Awesome. That sounds fantastic. But usually a lot of the times you're just sort of going for those lower level payoffs.
A little bit of incidental value here and there.
Yeah.
And again, that is something that you can do regardless of what you have in your material deck. So
Absolutely.
that is something to be on the lookout, kind of no matter what you're drafting.
Yes.
Now, there is also stuff that gets much, much better when supported.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do with class bonus synergies.
Yes.
I think the first thing that comes to mind is what is, in my mind, the most powerful deck in the format, which is Tamer.
Yeah.
I think
Tamer's got
that
some good
the
payoffs.
Tamer class bonuses are very, very good in AMB. Something like Royal Bear is just, forgive me, but an absolute beast.
It is an absolute beast.
So Tamer bonuses specifically is a deck archetype that you want to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, the fire stuff in particular can be really nasty. Stuff like Flamewing Foul, which is a 3/1, which when attacking a champion gets +1 attack. That thing is just an absolute beater. Also, if you can get the level payouts, Lava Soul Tiger is just a 5/5.
Casual 5/5.
Casual 5/5.
Pride 3 is a lot to manage, but
Yeah.
you can get that with Tamer.
You can build around it. I believe in you. You can definitely get there. There's some good Water Tamer payoffs too. Tyson Bovine is in this set, which, Tyson Bovine, good enough by itself. We'll get into that. But also Rippleback Terrapin also lets you buff it, and also it has Spell Shroud, so it's just a real pain in the butt to get rid of. There's some good stuff in there.
Really?
Yeah.
So, in addition to Tamer, one of the other things that gets a lot more powerful if you have access to the class bonuses is Guardian stuff.
Oh my goodness.
You really want to be on the lookout for Guardian class bonuses. You get stuff like the extra bonus damage on Palace Guard.
Yeah.
You get stuff like the Vigor bonus on Unrelenting Warden. You get some really, really just powerful tools on allies that are generally pretty okay to start with. So if Guardian is one of the things that you have access to, it definitely makes a lot of sense to keep that in mind when you're seeing cards go past.
Yeah, I got my hands on a War Marshal the previous draft, which it's a 2/3 for 4, but if you have class bonus, it's steadfast and +1/+1 as long as you control a horse.
Whoa.
And that thing's never dying. It's probably not dying.
That's incredible.
And it's going to kill anything that tries to kill it.
3/4 is just
Yeah.
That's a scary stat
It's
line.
really good. It's very, very good. So another good one, Water Assassin.
Assassin in general, but also
Yeah.
the idea of Water Assassin is pretty cool.
So the prep counter generation is really tough to come by in this set, but if you can manage to get it, there are some really great payoffs. One of the really big payoffs is a card called Sudden Deluge. It's a 2-cost attack for 3 damage. It has prepare 1, and on champion hit as an assassin, if it was prepared, your opponent puts the top 10 cards from their deck into their graveyard, which a lot of people, when they saw this card, they kind of laughed at it because, milling someone for not their entire deck is kind of a terrible idea because usually they're going to plus a lot off of it. In a format where your decks are usually 30 cards, this is actually a very valid way to KO your opponent.
yeah, this is more than half of their deck most of the time.
Yep. So it's actually quite good in the concept of draft.
The other thing to keep in mind is while prep counters are difficult to come by, Slice and Dice is in this format.
Yes, it is. That's the biggest payoff.
Absolutely. And there's quite a few things that have Assassin class bonus that are really, really relevant.
Yeah.
There are several 2-power units with Stealth that is on class bonus for Assassin. And that's, again, when you have an ally-focused format, the way that draft is, a small Stealth ally that's otherwise somewhat innocuous is really a pain to deal with.
I will say Water also has one of the most consistent forms of preparation generation in this format in the form of Drifting Rogue, which is a 3-cost 1/2 that gives you a prep counter on enter. That's floating memory.
Yeah, it's
Like,
pretty good.
come on. That's great. That's fantastic.
So I think we should take a moment here to talk a little bit about drafting strategy in terms of how you know what cards to take out of a pack.
Yeah.
Right? So this is some direction, right? This is like, okay, well, I guess I want Tamer cards, so I'll take Tamer card. I want to build a Tamer deck, so I'll just take the Tamer cards.
Yeah.
But there's, one of the most important things is looking into a pack and seeing what's open.
Yeah.
Seeing what's there.
In this game, I think the commons and the uncommons are really, really the ones that shine here. A lot of the rares and up tend to be very, very specific, and they don't always apply to the limited strategies that you would do, really, because they require very specific support. So really the commons and the uncommons are what you're looking here.
Yeah, and what you want to be able to do is identify which commons are the most important, but also uncommons, lead into a given strategy.
Yeah.
Right? So, for example, Tamer.
Yes.
The most important common for Tamer is Royal Bear.
Royal Bear, very good.
If you see a Royal Bear in, say, the 4th or 5th pack coming down the line, that means there's no Tamers upstream of you. So you're a lot more likely to get powerful Tamer cards because they're not going to be bothering with them.
True. This is a very powerful card. It seems really tough. The Pride 2 can put some people off, but this thing does work.
Meanwhile, if if your very first pick is Lava Soul Tiger and you never see another Tamer card coming down the pike, then you kind of aren't building into that kind of Tamer support that you might like. You can still do it, obviously. There's a lot of other cards that you can take that are generally powerful, even though they don't necessarily require you to be Tamer in order to use them.
Right.
But it means that you are maybe getting cut off from the more powerful cards, and that might mean that it's a good idea to look for something else.
Yeah.
If you have one of your nameless champions has Tamer on them, the other nameless champion has Guardian on it, and you're kind of waffling, oh, should I take Tamer cards? Should I take Guardian cards? Take a look at whether or not you find one of these very powerful cards for that archetype early on, and that can give you some direction into which of those you want to kind of dive into.
Yeah. Another way you could look at it is if you're worried about getting cut off or sort of not being able to find a lot of support, stay open with your first few picks. Like look for cards that are, say, Norm Element that might be not requiring a class bonus, something a bit more straightforward. Something that has guaranteed use no matter what you pick.
Yeah, if you are looking at 2 cards and they seem equally powerful, take the Norm one.
Yeah. Just to give some folks an idea of what to look for. Like what are some not standout commons that you
Well,
say?
to pull back a little bit from the idea of signals and the idea of drafting something that is important to synergize with, the most powerful card in this entire format is Nascent Blast.
Oh God, it's true.
First off, just being able to deal 3 damage is fine. Like that's not
It's
bad.
a great number to deal.
Second off, Tome of Sorcery will empower things even if you're not a mage.
Yes.
You need to be mage and level 2 up in order to be able to draw a card off of the Tome of Sorcery materialize.
Yep.
But you can always just rest it to empower, regardless of what the class you are.
And if you empower the Nascent Blast, it goes back into your memory, meaning you just get to reuse it over and over and over.
And the most powerful thing you can do in this format is deal 3 damage a turn without going down on influence.
I recall our first draft in which I remember the first draft pod that I was in with Jim. He drafted 3 Nascent Blasts and a Tome of Sorcery. And I just proceeded to sort of play allies to the board and watch them get removed one per turn. And my hand was going down and his was not. I was just like, well...
Influence neutral kills.
I fear that I am not long for this world.
I think I have ended up being at like 9 influence, 10 influence before I needed to start doing anything else in order to keep myself alive.
Yeah.
And at that point, that was all she wrote.
Even if you somehow don't end up with empower support for this thing, like just being able to deal 3 damage is a great number. Like all those 2/3s that we're talking about that are great.
Absolutely.
Dice to Nascent Blast.
It can be hard to kill some of those allies, and Nascent Blast does a good job of killing almost everything relevant in the format.
It's pretty good, got to say.
So pay attention to that one.
Yes.
But yeah, I think other cards that are really important are cards that we've mentioned already a few times. Royal Bear is a good indicator that the Tamer strategy is open. If you see a Royal Bear 3rd or 4th, that tells you that you're probably going to be getting some decent Tamer cards from those drafters.
Yep.
If you see a Unrelenting Warden, this is one of the more powerful Guardian bonuses that's available.
Yep.
Like that kind of is sort of a green flag for, yes, I can take these cards.
Another thing you might want to look into if you are looking to make use of the equestrian stuff is Ordinary Horse. It's probably one of the better one of the better equestrian enablers. It's just a 2-cost horse with floating memory.
Yeah, there's actually quite a few like solid horses that you can put in these slots.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the Ghost Sight Mare, I think.
Ghost Sight Mare is also incredibly good. 2/2 True Sight.
If you can get a Lumbering Steed, that dude's busted.
Oh, yeah. That thing is not going to die. That thing's never dying. It's actually, we joked a lot when we saw it, originally being like, this horse is way too chunky. And it's just like, no, it's actually just really good.
It's really good.
It's a really good horse.
One other thing that I think is actually important to mention here, not necessarily because of the class bonus, is Palace Guard.
Oh, yeah.
So Palace Guard also, in the same vein as Nascent Blast, just a very, very strong card for the format.
Yeah.
Even if it's only a 1/3, the fact that it taunts means that your opponent has to get through it before they can do anything else to you. And you can use that to keep some of your other allies alive. You can use that as defense. There's not a lot of good options for defense in this format. It's kind of aggressive.
Yeah, like if you wanted to play the full Razor Gale deck, like you are going to be very short on defensive options. And Palace Guard is actually a perfect way to slot in there. It's not the best option, but it is a solid card that will get the job done.
Of course, if you are also a Guardian, then Palace bonus just becomes huge.
Yeah, being able to retort for 3 is just obnoxious. Like nothing's going to get through that. It's going to kill something on its way out.
That's the best part, is you can just leave that awake and it'll kill something on the way out and it'll do exactly what you want it to.
It's great. Another one I want to call out here is Tidestone Bovine. This is a 1/2. You can mill a player for 2 cards whenever it attacks. It's a constructed all-star. One thing that's very relevant in the same vein of the Water Assassin cards like Sudden Deluge is you can use this on your opponent in combination with stuff like Sudden Deluge and actually have a proper mill strategy if you wanted to do that. So that's a fascinating option that's on the table for you. So, if you want to attack them in a different way, if you kind of just don't want to play the usual game of KOing their champion, just go for the mill. Go for the mill plan. Mill plan works.
And then the last comment I want to talk about is Cavalier Rescue.
Cavalier Rescue is an incredible card.
Absolutely. So there are a few tricks in this format to keep your allies alive, and Cavalier Rescue is bar none the best of them.
You don't actually need the equestrian bonus for this to be good, but it does not hurt.
Yeah, and this is a great card no matter what you're doing. You will get value out of it, and you'll probably blow out your opponent with it.
Oh, yeah. I have been blown out by this thing so many times. It is very, very strong.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to keep in mind, all of these cards that we've been talking about, these are all commons.
Yes.
These are cards that you will see every draft.
They are your bread and butter.
Which is why it is important to pay attention to when these cards are not available.
Yes.
Right? If you've gone 3 or 4 packs and you're not seeing a card that seems important to your strategy, maybe somebody else is drafting that same strategy, you might want to switch gears. You might want to turn to something else so as to be in a lane that is more open, so you're not getting cut off.
My last draft that I played, I was definitely very keen on drafting fire cards for my first few picks, and I was really keen to go in that direction until at some point I just realized I was being passed 5 win cards and no other elements, and I was like, I wonder if this is open. And so I proceeded to draft a lot of Razor Gale, Just so much Racer Gale. Full copies of everything. And that was very good. So it's important to read into these things because, it very often leads to good things for you and bad things for your opponent.
Commons are important. Commons are not everything.
Yeah,
obviously there are other cards in the packs.
Yes.
They're less important in terms of figuring out what your strategy is, but they are pretty good payoffs if you are in the right strategy when they come by.
Yes.
So this is some cards that maybe if you see one will pull you into a strategy, and are cards that if you're thinking about that strategy, you probably don't want to let past you.
Right.
Starting with the uncommons.
Yes.
Lava Soul Tiger is the biggest one for me in this slot.
This is such a good card.
If I'm thinking about going Tamer, if I'm going back and forth, like maybe I have Tamer, maybe I have some Mage synergies, or Tamer against some Assassin stuff, and I'm trying to decide which Nameless champion I want to support or what strategy I want to go into. If I see a Lava Soul Tiger early on, I will go Fire Tamer.
This is a great thing to build your strategy around.
Do keep in mind, you do need to be at level 3 because Lava Soul Tiger has Pride 3. But this is a great use for Call of the Wild if you manage to pull it from your draft pack. And if you were able to do that and you can sustain level 3,
5/5 hurts.
Yeah, it's almost unbeatable just on rate, just on the size of it alone. Tamer has a lot of good ways to keep it alive.
Yep.
And it's a reason to be Fire. It's a reason to be Fire, and it's a reason to be Tamer.
Like with a body that big, like you can't go wrong.
Absolutely.
So. Another card that's wonderful in the uncommon slot is the Rippleback Terrapin. It's a 1/4 by itself. If you manage to get access to any form of floating memory, it becomes a 2/5. If you have Tamer bonus enabled, it has Spell Shroud. This thing is obnoxiously hard to kill. It will continue to chip in for relevant damage, and it's just all around incredible.
Now, I don't want you to think that the floating memory bonus here is free. Floating memory is going to be a bit harder to come by in draft.
Yes.
You're not going to be able to build a water deck that is half floating memory.
That's not going to happen, most likely.
But you will be able to get some floating memory here and there. And if you are trying to draft around a card like Rippleback Terrapin, then you'll want to keep in mind how you're using your float.
Yes, very, very important to do so.
Another really cool water card in this format is Sea Fletch Serpent.
Oh man, I have wanted to see this card do work.
I've seen it once. It was gross.
That's oh man.
So I do want to preface this by saying that bows are kind of a trap, and we'll talk more about traps in draft. In addition to things, there's things that you want to do, and there's things that you probably don't want to do.
They're fun, they're explosive, but if that's all you got going, it's a little dangerous.
Yeah. But Sea Fletch Serpent single-handedly enables bows in a way that most things don't.
Yeah.
It is huge damage, very bursty the turn you play it, and can keep your weapon enabled, which is the big problem with bows, is it's hard to reuse them.
Yeah.
So keep an eye out for Sea Fletch Serpent if you have the bow support in your materials.
It's a good one. Very strong.
Lumbering Steed is also, I think we briefly mentioned it earlier,
Yep.
but it is uncommon. So it's not something that you're going to see that frequently,
Yeah.
but when you see it, it's probably worth taking.
It's a big horse.
It is a big horse, it's hard to kill, and it enables equestrian. Like the big problem with equestrian strategies is some of the horses are a little bit fragile. It's kind of hard to keep them on the field, and Lumbering Steed does not have that problem.
It is huge. You can increase its health at will with the cost of 2 reserve, and it's just a very strong, enduring creature. It'll help you do much with your equestrian.
You do have to be a little bit careful with it. The fact that it's hindered means that it can't defend itself. So you do have to watch out for that. You can't just play it into any board and hope that it'll survive. You have to have the extra reserve to pay for its health up, or maybe have a trick in hand like Cavalier Rescue, which is going to be a lot cheaper if you have a Lumbering Steed on the field. There's a lot of ways to keep it alive, but you have to make sure you're not just playing it into its death.
Yeah, it's usually best as like an early game play, or if you have one of those defensive bodies we talked about, say like a Palace Guard, something like that, to keep it safe. And then we have one of my favorite cards, the Brisk Wind Trotter.
Yeah, very powerful.
This card, I mean, if we're talking about getting board control is a lot easier when you have bigger allies than your opponent.
Absolutely.
And Brisk Wind Trotter is one of the most cost-efficient ways to do so should you manage to get that level 2 bonus, which is not terribly hard to do.
Right.
So
Brisk Wind Trotter is a card that's been seeing constructed play in ally decks.
Yeah.
And it is just as good in draft.
It is a fantastic card. So if you see this, consider being wind. Very strong.
Absolutely.
So the rares generally tend to be inconsequential just because they are a lot harder to make use of because they require specific support, but there are some good rares out there.
Yeah. So the first thing, absolutely. The first thing I want to say is to agree with Ken here.
Yeah.
Anything that is rare plus in this format is likely to be pretty niche.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing that synergizes well in a constructed format, that maybe plays with some of the themes in your deck if you can build towards them, but generally isn't a powerhouse on its own. Isn't something that drives a strategy, which is really what you need out of your
You
rares.
should not rely on any rare card to save your bacon. They're nice to have, though.
That said, there are some powerhouse rares.
Yes.
And there's definitely some cards that you want to be on the lookout for. First and foremost is Guan Yu.
We love Guan Yu in this house.
Guan Yu is an incredible card just on the face of it. It's got a great rate to it. It doesn't require any specific class bonus. It can go into any win deck. And the power level of Guan Yu is just off the charts.
Yep.
Compared to almost anything else that you can put onto the field.
If you put Guan Yu, that is just a brick wall you are putting in front of your opponents.
Absolutely. And don't be afraid of just raw playing it for 5. You don't need to set up any particular weird trap with it. You don't need to sacrifice a human in order to enable the lower casting cost. A 2/4 on its own is roll strong, and the additional bonuses of Guan Yu's ability just makes the card incredibly hard to deal
You
with.
just need her to clap back for 4. If she claps back for 4, she's done her job. Everything else is bonus.
Very, very strong card.
In the same vein, in the same element rather, Liu Bei is a 2/3 for 3, but with just some strict upside. And there's a little bit of distant enabling in the set, so that could also help you trigger her, get a little extra value. You know, that backstep suddenly turns into big damage.
Yeah, so then taking a step back from that, there are some cards in Rare that are not powerhouses, really, but they're just better than other cards.
Yeah.
Like, even just a little bit better.
Marginal
but, like,
upside?
Marginal upside is enough.
Yeah.
Right? So a card like Sun Quan is a good example. It is 4, so a little bit more expensive than your average 3 reserve 2/3, but it comes in with a buff counter. So you effectively get 3/4 worth of stats on it, as long as you have another ally to buff.
Yeah.
I wouldn't rely too much on the secondary ability. Like, we're not building pride decks out here.
Yeah, we're
but
not.
you can be level 1 fairly easily and get that extra buff counter off of Sun Quan. And then a 2/3 on the board is a 2/3 on the board, regardless of how much you paid for it. And that's a thing to pay attention to.
Yeah, yeah. Another one sort of in this same category, but a rarity up is Xiao Xiao. A 1/2 with stealth is a relevant body. In this format, it's not super, super crazy. You're not going to enable anything crazy like, you know, the Power of Arthur or Red Hair or anything like that. But like, you know, just having a 1/2 that can repeatedly poke in and is very difficult to remove is pretty good.
Yeah.
Also, incidentally, banishing would-be floating memory cards, not bad.
The fact that the stealth isn't on class bonus is a reason to look closely at Xiao Xiao should you see her go by.
Exactly, exactly.
In a similar vein to all of this, Xiahou Dun
Yeah, Xiao
is
Dun.
a fine card.
Yeah.
If you're in water, what you're getting for your value is slightly better than the average common or uncommon.
You're likely to have a sword or a bow from your draft pack, so this is very easily a 2/4.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, just in general, like, having weapons are good. You usually want to have some weapon or another in your material.
You
deck.
just need something to hit them with, right?
So it's very easy to make Xiahou Dun a 3 reserve 2/4.
Yeah.
Which, you know, just a little step above the rest of the team.
Yeah. Speaking of step above the rest of the team, if you somehow manage to get lucky and pull an ultra rare, Zhao Yun, Dragon's Blood, is actually quite good in this set. He's yes, he is Axia element, but your draft pack usually contains some manner of you unlocking all elements for at least one turn. Whether that be through taking damage or through some other effect, through like a time-based H counter effect.
Yeah, there's 2 cards that are prismatic something or other. I don't remember exactly what they are.
Check them out on Index. But if you play this the turn when you have all elements enabled, that's a 2/3 that can become immortal. Should he kill an ally?
Yeah, let's talk about Immortal, though. God. What a keyword.
Yeah. Crazy. So I feel like that's a slam dunk.
Yeah,
if you manage to
absolutely.
pull
If
him.
you see a Zhao Yun in your pack, you are never going to be Exia, but you can play this card regardless, and
you'll
I'd
figure
recommend
it out.
it.
You should
I would
definitely do
recommend
it. You should definitely do it. Getting ideas for our own draft set.
So I think that is a lot of what I wanted to talk about in terms of specifics.
Yeah, those are like a lot of good signals to sort of pick up on and sort of form a strategy. Now, not all strategies are created equal.
True. Not all strategies are good.
There can be some pitfalls.
Yeah.
And we're familiar with some of these pitfalls.
So having been through enough of these drafts to know when something sounds like a good idea and ends up not being a good idea.
Oh, Lord.
There's a number of things that I want to bring up as like kind of traps for the people who are maybe less familiar with the format. And maybe eventually is a thing that you want to try just to see if you can do it. But for your first draft, avoid these things.
Yeah, agree.
The first is Prismatic Spirits. This is a failsafe.
Yes.
This is a plan D, a plan F, honestly.
Yes.
If you end up with a draft pool that is split evenly between fire and water, you don't really have a choice here. You've got to do something in order to be able to play these cards.
Yeah.
But the fact that the Prismatic Spirit costs you a card to play with it makes it a lot lower power than just having a one element deck.
I think the only way that I could see this working is if you play a lot of cards that sort of go influence neutral. But I feel like that is going to be very difficult. And you could do the same thing in one element compared to two elements.
Absolutely.
So like really this is just like you should really try your best to adhere to a mono element deck. And this is just here if all of your signals just go awry.
The trap here is you don't want to first pick a fire card, second pick a water card and be, oh, I guess I am fire, water, prismatic.
Don't do that. Please don't.
You'll thank me later.
It's not worth it. Believe me.
But yeah, if your draft just goes completely off the rails, or if you find a specific really powerful synergy, Prismatic Spirit is there, but it should not be your go-to.
No. That being said, when your draft does go awry, you'll be thankful you have it.
Absolutely.
But please don't. Another thing to talk about are, in that similar vein, lineages. So in addition to the nameless champions you have in your draft pack, Mortal Ambition does contain two champions, Jin and Kongming. And there are certain cards that key off of having them in play. And they are generally not good ideas to draft around.
Yep.
One card in every Mortal Ambition pack is reserved for a champion, but it is not always a champion. Sometimes it can be a spirit. Sometimes it can be, I forget if it's a token or not sometimes. I think it is also a token sometimes. So your odds of seeing a Jin or a Kongming is very low. It is even lower that you are going to find the Jin and Kongming that you need to have a relevant lineage. So because that could be the Jin level 1, the Jin level 2, the Jin level 3. So same thing for Kongming. So, there is very little chance that you will actually see a Jin 1 or a Kongming 1 to make a lineage actually work. That being said, if you see it early, you can enable some very interesting things. I know that in a recent draft, we had a friend draft Kongming 1 very early, and then 2 Hydro Guard Retainers came by, and that was a really good time. One of my most memorable drafts was actually managing to score Jin 1 and Jin 2, and basically having a sort of pseudo wake up fire aggro plan. But this also involved a Sword Stain of Everflame, which is an SR card, a bunch of Temper and Flame. So it is basically the most magical Christmas land deck that I could have possibly drafted. And I'm pretty sure that Jin 1 came in the middle of pack 3. So you really shouldn't expect these things to actually come true.
Yeah, I think the important part of this is if you see it early, then that's an okay place to start putting your energy.
Yeah.
But never take like Kongming level 3, right? And then hope that 2 and 1 come around.
Do not
because it's not gonna.
Do not start picking up Leeching Bolts thinking you're gonna go to level 3. It's not gonna happen.
It's very, very rare that it works out in your favor, and it's almost never worth it to go for it.
No. But if you get like an early level 1, okay, give it a shot. That being said, having to pass a level 1 at the end of the second pack, it hurts. I know, I understand, but stay the course.
Yep.
You'll thank us for it.
Absolutely. So another thing that can be a trap, depending on how you're building your deck, is level 3 cards.
Yeah.
The thing to keep in mind here is because of the way Nameless Champions work, is you don't have a built-in way to go to level 3.
You do not.
If you want to play anything with a level 3 bonus on it, you have to draft or have some other support to get there.
Exactly.
So Call of the Wild.
Call of the Wild does work.
Empower
cards?
There are Empower cards can work for spells, but don't work for Pride. But outside of Call of the Wild, nothing in this format just gives you a level.
Yeah.
Nothing in this format gives you a level counter.
You are empowering, and that is about it.
So you have to be really, really careful about getting any of these level 3 bonuses.
Yeah.
Especially if it's on an ally.
Yep. Absolutely. If you can get the payoff, it's pretty good. Indolent Leisure, great payoff, but that's about it.
Bows. So bows are difficult to get working.
They are.
And this is a thing that you kind of have to watch out for. Bows seem like they're powerful. They're relatively cheap for what you're getting out of them, but they're cheap because you need to put the support for them in your main deck.
It's basically an attack card with extra steps.
Yep. And it also means that you need a lot of support in order to get them to work reliably.
Yeah.
You need something like 8 or 9 arrows in your main deck if you reliably want to use up all of the attacks on a bow.
Yeah. And it's difficult because that's also deck slots that you're not devoting towards controlling the board. So it's a very risky strategy.
And if you get extra arrows and you don't have a bow to use them, like that's terrible. Those are just dead cards.
You're
for
limited
you.
by your durability. So you need to either draft more bows or pray, basically.
Right. You just need to spend a lot of slots on making them work. And even if you do that, like, that's powerful, but it is a lot.
It's a lot.
I do want to point out, though, we did talk about Sea-Fletched Serpent, and it is for exactly that reason.
Yes.
That allows you to put a bow in your material deck, and then with only one card in your main deck, get all of the attacks out of that bow.
Yep.
Because the Sea-Fletched Serpent reloads itself into the bow after being fired from the bow.
Yep. It's a great use of ammunition, honestly.
But other than that, it's really difficult to get, not only to put enough arrows into your deck, but just to get enough arrows to put into your deck to keep your bows working.
Yeah.
So it's something to be really careful of.
Yeah, do
Because,
take caution.
Yeah, it's a thing that ends up being very restrictive in terms of how you build your deck and how you draft your deck.
I feel like if you draft that deck, you basically just need to go face as much as possible and just not let up until they're gone. Because admittedly, they do a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
But, you need a way to reliably win that
You got to be
damage.
careful with it.
Yeah.
Another one in the same vein is prep counters.
Yeah.
So
very
there's
rare.
a lot more ways to use prep counters than there are to obtain prep counters.
Yeah.
So you want to be really careful if you're picking up your 4th Inner Court Schemer, expecting to have all of the prep counters you need
Yep.
in order to make this a good card.
That girl's just going to be a 1/3.
All the time. So you need to be careful about how many prep counter consumers you are adding to your deck, as opposed to prep counter producers that you are adding to your deck.
Yeah, water definitely seems like one of the more reliable elements to generate prep counters, but they all elements want to spend prep counters, and they will find different ways to get you to spend prep counters.
And it's really, really easy to fall into this trap of just, drafting your 4th, 5th, 6th prep counter consumer without thinking about how you're going to be developing the prep counters for them to consume.
Yep.
So that's kind of general stuff. There is a specific trap I want to talk about here, which is Promising Recruit.
I wanted to love Promising Recruit so
Right?
badly.
So Promising Recruit, also Zhangfei is kind of the same thing in this. It's
Similar.
an ally that grows, right?
Yeah.
It's an ally that adds buff counters turn over turn.
Just gets bigger and bigger over time, right? Yeah.
And it feels like it should be really powerful. It feels like it should take control of the board, and it can, but you have to be ready to defend it. If you
Yeah.
are going to be drafting a Promising Recruit, you should also be drafting multiple combat tricks, stuff that you can use to save its life in a combat situation, so that it has the ability to live long enough to get to that snowbally, 4, 5, 6 buff counters.
Yeah, because very often, if you put that thing down without any protection, it's just going to get killed on sight.
Absolutely. And don't expect decks to play fair here. They're not just going to be attacking, right?
Yeah.
Most decks are going to include some kind of spell damagey way to destroy a creature.
Yeah.
And Promising Recruits and Zhangfei both come down fairly small.
Yeah.
If your opponent is holding a Nascent Blast, if your opponent is holding a Sparkleite, if your opponent is holding a Thunderclap, there's a lot of ways that people can knock out one of these units at fast speed. Then you have to spend your trick saving it on your turn, and then you can't save it from your opponent's allies.
Yeah.
So you have to be really, really careful to make sure that you have enough defense to keep this unit alive. Otherwise, it's just going to die, and that's going to be a bummer.
Yeah, it's a real shame. So, what else do we have here?
That's it.
Those
for
the
drops.
drops? Yeah. But yeah, just to give you some general takeaways, though, with all the things that we've been throwing out, good and bad. Taunting and intercepting is very important in the Veda board control.
Yes, absolutely.
Palace Guard, don't underestimate it. A 1/3 is just fine to keep the board.
I would say taunting is a lot more important than
Yes.
intercept. Intercept is something that you can use to add some defense to the board if your opponent is aggressive.
Yeah.
Right? You're like, I'm worried about my life total. I need to play some interceptors.
Yeah.
Razor Gale. Razor Gale decks
Gale
need to play
loves
some interceptors.
intercept.
But intercept doesn't help you keep the board.
True.
So that's something to be careful of.
Yeah.
Taunt, on the other hand, fantastic.
Amazing. Get your palace cards.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. What else do we have here?
So the other,
yeah.
let's just in generalities, things that you want to watch out for that are good pretty much categorically.
Yeah.
Every class, almost every class, clerics and rangers don't have this,
Yeah.
but almost every class has a level 2 regalia at common.
Yes.
And you want to keep in mind, because of the construction rules, you can only hold one of these in your deck at a time. You can't put like 3 of these into your material deck, regardless
Yeah.
of how many you draft. So, maybe don't draft 3 of them.
Yeah.
But the first one is almost always good.
Yeah.
There's 3 power weapons for warrior and for assassin. There's the
the Defender's Maul for Guardian, which is a beating.
Yep. There's Tome of Sorcery for mage.
Oh, Sorcery is incredible.
So all of these are worth picking up, and
Yeah.
they're either a one cost that'll draw you something, or something that'll help you keep control of the board in a way that very few other things will.
Yeah. Yeah. Cleric and Ranger are kind of the sore ones here, but even Cleric's like draws you a card into memory, so it's not the worst. And Ranger is just it's a big bow. Hope you got enough arrows.
Yeah.
Hope we got some snakes.
The bows are not that impressive.
Bows are tricky. So
tricky.
you all in on bows or you don't.
And then I think one final note here while we're talking about draft strategy is there are particular ways to play with the Nameless Champion. I don't know that we're going into the specifics on this, but the Nameless Champion has an ability on it which allows you to pay 6 reserve to put a level counter on it and draw a card.
Yes.
And it is really, really powerful if you can find a way to use it, but it is 6 reserve,
Yes.
which is a lot of reserve.
It's harder to do the longer the game goes on.
So the specific line that you want to be able to do is, if you're going second, and also I recommend going second if you have the choice. If you're going second, you can play a 1-cost card, which leaves you with 6 cards in hand.
Yes.
You can use the card you put down to bring out your champion, immediately pay the 6 to go to level 2, and then just start your game plan from there. Because you've gone neutral on the card you banished from drawing a card from the ability. And you're in a great position, and then you don't have to worry about it later on. Because like Ken said, the longer the game goes on, the harder it gets to take a turn off.
Hey, you know what one cost in this set that everyone can make use of? Idle Thoughts.
It's true. Idle Thoughts worth picking up.
Yeah.
The other way to make this work that is really, really interesting is Ninja Tabi.
Oh, yeah, Ninja Tabi.
So Ninja Tabi is a card that you might get in your draft pack. It does not require a class bonus, despite being very assassin coded. And what it does is it just gives you Agi 3. So you can play something costing 4, use the 3 agility from the Ninja Tabi, and then as long as you haven't been burning cards too fast, you could have 6 cards in your hands from that, and use the 1 card that you still have down in order to go to your champion. So this is like the kind of line that you want to be able to look for, ways to get your champion online early, and ways to, and if you need to, take the turn off, but ways to set yourself up to have those cards in hand when the champion comes down so you can use its ability immediately.
Yeah, yeah. More cards good.
More cards good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's almost everything I wanted to say about draft, at least as a kind of draft primer.
Yeah, yeah. In short, play draft.
Yeah, absolutely.
Give it a shot. If you want to try something a little different, if you need to take a break from constructed, and you want to try something new, we recommend it. It's also a great thing to do if you're at an Ascent and perhaps you did not make it to day 2 and you still want to show up and have some fun. Draft is a great way to do that. And we're sure that at some point, AMB at least, I think whenever I draft it, I still find something new to have fun with. And I'm sure that at some point they will put out a new set that is draftable along with an updated draft pack, and we'll just have fun finding all the strategies all over again. Yeah. So it's a good time. So, yeah.
I would like to turn this into a conversation, though. If you found that any of this strategy works for you, let us know. Yeah. If you think that we've missed something in particular, please let us know. Drop a comment either in the Discord or on the YouTube video.
Yeah.
If there's a specific card that you think is really good that we missed, if there is a deck archetype that you think we kind of glossed over, let us know. We really want to hear about this.
Share your thoughts on draft and how you can win the next one.
Yeah, I personally, I love talking about draft.
Yeah.
And if we do a second draft episode down the line, I am happy to incorporate any additional input.
Yeah. One thing that I think we may have touched on in a previous episode is that something that we have been working on with our local community is a draft cube, which is to be able to basically use not just AMB, but all Grand Archive sets to sort of build out our own sort of custom draft environment. And so whenever we see stuff like this, we love seeing how each card could sort of fit in, not only in Constructed, but also in such an environment. So we're excited to sort of
Play draft.
So tell your friends. Suggest a draft. If you come back from locals with a bunch of packs and you're wondering what to do with them, try a draft.
Yeah, try a draft.
Yeah. So that will bring us to the end phase.
Oh, no.
And we've been talking about limited quite a bit. So we could talk a little bit about Constructed, I suppose.
Might as well.
I mean, I guess there's a new set out.
I've heard good things about it.
Yeah. It seems like it's been okay. Everyone's talking about it. It's really riled people up.
Why do I do this?
I don't.
Why do I let you do this?
I don't know, but I'm glad you do. So we've been doing some initial testing for Distorted Reflections.
Yeah, I'm really excited.
It's been really interesting. There's a lot of new stuff here. Some of it just absolutely terrifying. Having been used to sort of water and wind sort of taking the limelight for a while, it's time for fire to sort of kick down the door.
Fire's back.
And oh my goodness.
Fire's so bad.
If y'all aren't cooking the Spectre stuff, like, it's not really a secret at this point.
Yeah, it's
like
really
Spectres are pretty good. Give it a shot. It's something else.
Anything besides Spectres on your radar?
Well, I've been enjoying Water Diana quite a bit. I will say I live in perpetual fear of horses because Unbroken Mustang is a war criminal.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Just absolutely terrible. But it's taught me that I cannot just rest on my laurels, and sometimes I have to respect the interaction that people throw at me. Trying to figure out the ratios for that deck has been really challenging, and I'm mostly not really sure where it will sort of fit in the grand scheme of things, especially with the Ryle deck sort of being really popular right now. I think Tristan is going to continue being really popular for now. Hot takes, of course. But it seems like it's at least opened things up to be very different than the previous season. I do think it is refreshing to see fire decks back in the fold. I think I am a little scared of how explosive they are now. So we'll kind of have to see how that sort of pans out. I think learning the ways to interact with that is going to be a bit of a challenge. I think there's some ways through it. We'll see. We'll see how well they go.
Personally, I'm really excited to finally answer the question of what if every card in my deck was a bullet. So I'm looking forward to trying some stuff out with Diana.
I can tell you it's pretty cool. It removes their opponent. Also, it's a bullet.
Yeah.
What if Raccoon was a bullet? What if Dolphin was a bullet?
Well, yeah, what if everything
It's
was
fantastic.
It's great.
It's funny because I was telling people that this was going to be sort of an off season for me. I was going to sort of take a break because the national season was very busy. It was fun, but there was a lot to it. But a couple things ultimately have changed that. One is most importantly, I have a friend who's been really interested in actually trying to be more competitive this season, trying to actually top some events. So I'm trying to lend my support to that effort, which means I also need to be on top of my stuff. Yeah. Also, have y'all seen the metal tokens they announced for regionals this season? They look gorgeous.
That's really cool.
So I'm now making plans to travel to most regionals on the West Coast. It's going to be a mess. I don't even know how I'm going to do it.
Well, my sympathies on your upcoming incredibly fun endeavors.
Yes, I'll do my best. We'll do my best. There also is the question of Niagara Falls.
Oh, yeah.
Which was announced, which I think will be interesting to go to. But that's down the pipe.
Yeah.
We still have a couple more sets before that. So the next big event we are talking about is going to be Boston at the end of, at the time of this recording, next month, at the end of August. We also have the Quicksilver Cup coming up in Auckland a couple weeks before that. So undetermined if we're going to talk about that in the same episode or give it its own episode. We'll sort of have to play that one by ear,
yeah.
But there's a lot to be excited about. I'm really interested to see how the early season shakes out. Right now it's chaos.
God, I'm so excited for events. I can't wait for data.
Oh my gosh, please. If you are running a regionals or a locals in your area, please give us the data. We love
the
data. Data is delicious.
Please upload deck
Please
lists
feed.
to Fractals.
Please feed us.
Please.
Please. So yes, I think that'll
wrap us up.
As always, thank you for listening to the Corhazi Outlook. Hopefully you enjoyed a sort of different spin on things with a little bit more holistic of an episode. We might try doing another one of these sometime in the future.
a little bit less data, a little bit more feels, but hopefully it was helpful.
Yeah. I think if there's anything you guys would like to hear in terms of sort of less data-driven topics and more just general stuff, one thing we are floating around is the idea of Ascent preparation. If some of you have not yet gone to an Ascent and are thinking of going to one, if that's something you're interested in, let us know. Feel free to just leave anything that you might want us to talk about in the comments, and we will, with some discretion, determine if we want to talk about those on a future episode.
Honestly, having more topics to talk about is a good idea. I wouldn't mind having a more frequent release cadence, but that's entirely dependent on us having content. So
It's
if
true.
there's anything you want to hear us talk about, let us know, and maybe we'll make an episode about it.
If not, we'll come up with something.
Yeah.
We'll find. We can yap for a good while.
I feel like we can
So,
figure it out.
We can figure it out. But anyway, thank you, as always, for listening to the Corhazi Outlook. Please look forward to our next episode where we will talk about the Quicksilver Cup.
Probably.
Boston, perhaps also.
Perhaps.
Yes. One or two of those things. But until then, take care.
Take care.